Mr. Rogers, how are you employed?
I'm currently employed as an investigator and forensic accountant with National Oil Well Barco in Houston, Texas. I investigate allegations of fraud within the company.
And where were you employed previous to that?
From 2015 to February of this year, I was employed as a fraud examiner with the Harris County District Attorney's Office.
And what did you do as a fraud examiner?
Mainly examined business and financial records on various cases, as well as investigate fraud.
Were you asked to look at any documents or account information in association with this case?
Yes, I was.
Could you tell us how many different accounts you were asked to look at?
Yes, I was brought 7 accounts from 2 banks, Allegiance Bank and BBVA Compass.
And the names on those accounts, and just let me stop there. Do you have your materials up there with you if you need to refer to them?
Yes, I do, sir.
And the names associated with those accounts that you were asked to look at?
The names were Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel.
What are we looking at here?
We are looking at a summary of all of the accounts that I examined.
Okay. Now, you mentioned 7 accounts. So there's 7 different accounts listed on this sheet, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you asked to focus in on any accounts in particular, or did you just start looking for any activity that you may want to document for later?
I was asked to examine all of the accounts, and so I examined all of the accounts.
So let's start in the right-hand column here. What SIG activity, what is that in reference to for each account?
The significant activity, originally I was asked to look for payments between accounts or cash activity. And so if there were any payments between accounts or cash activity, I noted that as significant activity.
Okay, so just looking at 59 here, it looks as though just off the bat, there's the second account, Leon Jacob, Compass Bank, and Leon Jacob and Megan Feeney, Compass Bank. There was no significant activity for the time period that you were asked to look at, correct?
And if I could back up just a little bit, this significant activity is also specifically in reference to the other exhibit with the timeline in February of 2017. So there may have been, cash withdrawals from the other accounts, but they didn't apply to the timeline that I created. So.
And when you're talking about the timeline, you're talking about activity within a certain period of time that you were asked to look for activity in.
Correct. Yes.
Now, this account right here, Leon Jacob and Megan Feeney, was this date here that when it says end date, I assume that means the account is no longer being used or it's been closed out.
Right, so the end date would be the last date of activity on that account.
Okay. And you actually note over here 0 balance on that same date, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what was the time frame that you were asked to look at in regard to the materials you were given in this investigation? Do you recall? I'll put this chart up here.
Yes, so I was asked to look at specifically a time frame, the beginning of 2017, so the January, February, March time frame.
Going back to 59, let me talk about an account here at the bottom. Did you note anything significant or have any opinion about what this account right here might have been used for?
That was an account that Valerie McDaniel opened in September of 2016. And it appears that account was used for personal use. And that account also, shortly after it was opened, there was a large loan deposit and then another deposit from a title company and then a large check cut to Marion McDaniel.
Did you know that during that time that Valerie and Marion McDaniel were going through a divorce?
I was aware of that, yes.
So the other accounts are Valerie McDaniel savings, Valerie McDaniel checking, and then a checking account for the Montrose veterinary clinic. Is that right?
That's correct.
We've already talked about the Leon Jacob Megan Feeney account that was 0 balanced on the 17th of January of last year. And then you have 2 other accounts here, correct?
That's correct.
One with both the name Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel on it, that's a checking account, and then another LLC checking account with just the name Leon Jacob, correct?
That's correct. That second account appears to be a small business LLC account.
And as you referenced on your chart here, there was no significant activity during the time frame for which we're interested, right?
That's correct.
Now, you mentioned it before, but what specifically were you looking for when you went through the account information for these accounts?
I was looking for payments between these accounts and large cash withdrawals or cash deposits.
So when you get these records, what sorts of things are in there? I assume it's, of course, records of withdrawal, but do you have any more information like deposit slips, withdrawal slips, anything more particular like that, things that a teller would have the client sign? Do you actually have that material?
Yes, so typically when we subpoena financial records, we receive bank statements and then some of the supporting items. So that may include deposit slips, copies of the checks that were deposited, copies of the checks that were paid, and withdrawal slips.
So in reference to, we're going to talk, and we're going to focus mostly about on this first account here, the one that is shared between Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel. Over here, you note that it's open the same day, the 17th of January, as this other account was zero balanced out. Is that right?
That's correct.
And in what name was that account first opened, this top one here?
Leon Jacob.
And you note on here that shortly thereafter, about 2 weeks later, Valerie McDaniel was added on February 2nd. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, when you're looking through the materials for a checking account, do you actually see anything in regard to whether a ATM card's been issued, whether a debit card's been issued in relation to that account?
Sometimes, but in this case, there were no documents stating that a particular card was issued. However, I did see in the transaction description on the statements which card was used for some transactions.
Okay, so it'll tell you what card's used, but it certainly won't tell you who's holding the card or anything like that, right?
That's correct.
Was there anything in the records to reflect that when Valerie McDaniel was added onto the account, about 2 weeks after the account was opened, that another card was issued at that time?
No, there was not.
But there's obviously ATM withdrawals because you saw that in your transactions, correct?
That's correct.
Do you have, and I'm going to zoom in here on the beginning of this timeline here. Did you indicate on your chart, and we'll just talk about withdrawals at first, did you indicate what type of withdrawal it was? What I mean by that is it a withdrawal that was done at a branch or was it an ATM withdrawal?
Yes, I did. I indicated whether it was ATM or a teller withdrawal.
And I'll zoom in a little bit more and see. And also listed on these, the notes of these transactions, I believe you also have time and a date, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So starting on the 11th, you noted that there's a total of 3 withdrawals taken from that account, correct? And they're all ATM?
That's correct. There were three ATM withdrawals on February 11th, totaling $2,100.
And the following day, there was 3 more withdrawals? And what was the total of the withdrawals on the 12th?
On February 12th, there were 3 ATM withdrawals totaling $3,400.
Now, moving down here in this part of the timeline, this line would represent activity that occurred in relation to the Montrose vet clinic, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So the next transaction we see overall in this timeline is a $4,000 cash withdrawal on the 13th at 8:55 a.m. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then does the timeline indicate that shortly thereafter on the same day, we have a cash deposit into the checking account that we've been discussing on the same day at looks like 10:30 a.m.?
Yes, that's correct.
Are there any records that you reviewed in relation to that cash deposit to see who made that deposit?
We had the deposit slip for that particular deposit, yes.
And who was it that made that deposit?
If you'll excuse me, I can pull up my record. For that particular deposit, the deposit slip is blank. There's no name on it.
Okay.
It just shows cash.
On February 16th, we have another, and just so we're clear, there doesn't appear to be, and I'll have to zoom in and zoom out on occasion here, there doesn't appear to be any other significant activity amongst the accounts that are listed on the spreadsheet up until the 16th. Is that right?
That's correct.
And we have another ATM withdrawal, $500 on that day.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Now, the following day, on the 17th, you could describe for us what activity do you know concerning the top account, the BBVA Compass account that we've been talking about, as well as any other account that you examined.
Sure. On February the 17th, there was a $5,000 cashier's check purchased from Valerie McDaniel's Allegiance checking account, and it was deposited into the joint BBVA Compass account ending 8144.
Was there any other deposits that were made from?
Yes, I'm sorry. It was the $5,000 cashier's check as well as a $1,000 personal check from that account were both deposited in the same deposit for a total of $6,000.
At this point, Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel are both on the BBVA Compass account, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The check, the cashier's check and the personal check, who were those made out to?
Those were made out to Dr. Leon Jacob.
Okay, Dr. Leon Jacob. Did either one of them have a notation as to the purpose of the payment?
Yes, sir. The check for $1,000 notated in the memo field, handwritten note said financial consultation. And on the cashier's check, the memo says financial consultation.
So to Dr. Leon Jacob for financial consultation.
Yes, sir.
Going to the 19th of February now, I'll zoom in here. It notes a $3,100 ATM withdrawal at 1:41 p.m. Is that right?
That's correct.
How is it possible to withdraw $3,100 from an ATM? I mean, I just didn't know that. I thought there were limits.
Every bank has different limits on their accounts and their account holders.
So you believe that that record to be correct, the correct reflection of it being an actual ATM withdrawal and not at a bank, not at a branch?
Yes, sir. That's what the records that were sent to us from BBVA Compass reflected it was an ATM deposit or withdrawal, excuse me.
Now, in regard to any video surveillance or the cameras that are in the ATM machines, after such a period of time, are you able to go back and obtain those videos to see who actually conducted that transaction?
Occasionally, yes, and we attempted to, in this case, to subpoena the banks and obtain the video or photo from those transactions, but we were told that they were outside of their retention period for photo and video.
And the ATM withdrawals that we've discussed so far, are they all using the same card?
Yes.
And moving forward, did you note that there was ever any other card that was used to make any ATM withdrawals from that account?
No, it appeared the same card was used for all of the ATM withdrawals in that account.
So that same day, we have an ATM withdrawal from the Montrose Vet Clinic account as well. Is that right?
Yes, sir, on February 19th.
And then the following day, we have another withdrawal from the account at the top here, the one shared between Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel, another large sum, $1,700 in cash.
Yes, sir, it appeared that occurred on February 20th, not too long after midnight.
On the following day, is there another transaction noted between any two of the accounts that you have on the spreadsheet?
On February 21st, there was a check deposited from Valerie McDaniel's Allegiance checking account into the joint BBVA Compass account.
And who is that check written to?
$4,000. The check was paid to Leon Jacob.
And was there anything written in the memo field on that one?
Let me confirm. No, sir.
activity regarding that account, the top account, in relation to any other account that we see here?
Yes, there was also a $2,000 check deposited at 1:44 p.m.
And was there anything written on that in the memo?
No, there was not. It was blank.
Now, I'm assuming that as you go through these records, these aren't the only transactions that are associated with these accounts, correct?
That's correct.
And what was it about this, everything that you noted on the activity and payment spreadsheet here, or timeline, what was it about these transactions that made you take note of them and include them in this presentation?
Because they were payments between accounts or cash deposits or withdrawals.
Now, were you able to review the records as far back as you obtained them for both Montrose Vet Clinic and Valerie McDaniel's personal checking account?
Yes,
And it went back beyond this timeline, correct?
that's correct.
The activity that we see throughout, not only from Valerie McDaniel's checking account, but also from the Montrose Vet Clinic, would you categorize those as usual, like in the regular course of the business that you saw in prior months? Or would you say they were unusual as far as the window that you've been able to see in the records that you received?
For Valerie McDaniel's and the vet clinic,
Yes.
that was not typical of the prior year's account history for Valerie McDaniel's or the vet clinic.
It was unusual activity in the scope of the records you were able to review going back into the previous year.
Correct.
And I don't think we spoke about this, but there is also a $7,500 cash withdrawal from the Montrose Vet Clinic, correct? On the 21st. On the 21st.
That's correct. And there was a $7,500 cash deposit on the 23rd.
Right, shortly after that.
Yes.
Another $800 withdrawal on the 22nd from our primary checking account here. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So we're talking about in the span of 3 days, we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,500. My math probably isn't too good, but maybe $5,900, $6,000 just from that one account.
Yes, sir, approximately $6,000.
And then at the end of our timeline here, we have another $1,000 ATM withdrawal, another $1,500 withdrawal the following day, and those are both done from the ATM, correct?
That's correct.
And then we have another check deposited at the end of the timeline, along with another cash withdrawal.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And where was the check was from? I don't know if you can read it on here. Where was the check from written to that account?
This check was paid from the Montrose veterinarian account, but at a different bank that we don't have. That check came from a Comerica account.
And is there a notation on that check?
Yes. Yes, there is. And let me pull it up. The memo field is handwritten note contains family heritage insurance consultation.
Now, I'm going to go back to the 17th and start there. There's a cash withdrawal on the 17th of February for $5,000, correct?
Yes, sir.
And because there is no indication that's an ATM withdrawal, I assume that's an in-person at a branch withdrawal.
Yes, sir. That was indicated as a teller withdrawal.
Okay. And does it indicate in your records who made that withdrawal?
The name Leon Jacob is written on the withdrawal slip.
Okay, I'm going to go to the second cash withdrawal that is indicated in your records. Could you tell us, and again, this is, I'm assuming, is an in-person withdrawal, who made this withdrawal for $800 on the 22nd?
The name Leon Jacob is indicated on, or is written on the withdrawal slip on that one as well.
And our last cash withdrawal here at the end of the timeline on the 27th for $3,020. Who was it that made that withdrawal?
The name Leon Jacob is written on that withdrawal slip as well.
Okay, so $9,000 in 2 weeks. Just in-person cash withdrawals, not counting the ATM withdrawals throughout this time period.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Now, were you able, or did you, after you found all of these and took note of them, did you come up with a number of total cash that was including the input of checks or payments, the transfer of money, the total amount of cash withdrawn between these accounts during this time period?
Yes, sir, I did. From this time period, there was a net cash outlays of $25,600.
$25,600.
That's correct.
And we're talking about a time period from February 11th through February 27th, correct?
That's correct.
So we're talking about a total of 16 days.
Yes, sir.
I'll pass it to Ms. Judge.
Hey, John. Good afternoon, Mr. Rogers. My name is Matthew Pospisil. I have a couple of questions for you. Now, you said today that there was an account opened up in Leon Jacobs' name on the 17th of January. That's correct?
Yes, sir.
But there's no record of any kind of debit card being issued?
That's correct.
But of course one was because it was used.
Yes, sir.
And then 2 weeks later, Valerie McDaniel's name was added onto that list as well.
Yes, approximately 2 weeks.
And there was no card issued for her.
Not that we know of, at least from the records.
So it's safe to say that both had access to that account at that time.
They were both signers on the account at that time.
So at any point in time, either one of them could withdraw money.
It's possible.
You said impossible?
No, I said that's possible,
Right.
yes.
And in all of these withdrawal transactions, you can't exactly pinpoint who was withdrawing all of the money, can you? A couple of them you can, but for the vast majority of the amount, you cannot.
That's correct. For the ATM withdrawals, it only shows the last 4 digits of the card number that was used.
And there was only one card for that account that either one of them could have used.
As far as I know from the records, only one card. I only saw one card used in transactions.
During your course of your investigation, were you aware that Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel were in a relationship?
Yes, I was.
And from your experience as a fraud examiner or a person who deals with financial advisements, do couples not share money?
Yes, they do.
And when you first get into a relationship, do you not try and commingle funds here and there?
Yes, that's common.
And so it could be safe to say that Valerie was trying to help Leon out if he had some expenses or some debts that he was giving her money to.
Object to speculation, Judge.
Sustained.
Is it common for couples to try and help each other out of financial burdens?
Object to speculation, Judge.
Sustained.
You also mentioned that Valerie McDaniel was going through a divorce, or that's at least what you were aware of. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And a lot of money was coming out of her account throughout that divorce?
Within one account, I noted a series of transactions around, I believe it was September 2016, that appeared to be associated with the divorce.
And there's nothing illegal about withdrawing cash money, is there?
That's correct.
And it's safe to have, say, $25,000 in cash on you, if you would like it. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
You're allowed to have $25,000 in cash, are you not?
Yes.
Did you go through and ever total up how much was also deposited?
For the cash deposits?
Or just in general?
Or in general? Yes.
Did that number exceed 25,000?
Yes, it did.
So even though they took out 25,000, more money was coming in.
That's correct.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Nothing further, Judge.
You're excused subject to recall. Thank you for your testimony.